Hey there, it's Chris. Welcome back to the Final Fantasy XII Ultima project, where we've been making a lot of big progress in the last few sessions. We have the entire head area is now done and in, and since that last session, I did a couple little touch-ups, a couple little kind of tweaks and cleanups on the model, on the base form here, and I have now hardened that as well. And in keeping with the compliance on the YouTube terms of service, I am covering up the top part, so we're not going to deal with just using a bust here, and that's it. But the reason the dress had to come off was we can't use that summer dress anymore, because now we're going to be making the real dress coming down. And that's going to be the focus of this episode here. And frankly, what we have to deal with is we're going to have a lot of weight that this dress is going to have to hold up, because our entire width we take as it comes up, down, and over is going to wind up being about 5 inches wide worth of clay on here. And it comes out to about, side to side, is about 9 inches wide in the end. So if we're doing around, in, over, around, and back the outside, that's going to be 5 inches tall versus figure 18 to 24, 1.5 to 2 feet long worth of clay at the base, which is going to go on here, which is going to be a lot of weight that this is going to have to hold up and be structured on its own. And not only that, it's going to be 2 layers of that. Because you can see in the image on the side, we have a lace layer, and then we have the over top layer. So today we're going to be focusing on this lace layer down below. And to start with that, we have 2 ways I can think of structuring this thing. The first was the original plan is we can stick, when I go to harden this, let's get my camera kind of set up again. We come to harden, we can kind of stick you in my clay here, and we can take a lot of these wire forms, we can bring them out from here, and they can kind of put them around a circle. We can kind of have them support the dress as we go. And that's one way to go about this. The other way I'm thinking of going about this is I'm going to start with, the way we're actually going to do it, so I'm going to start with a lump of clay such as this. I'm going to find just a flat block to stick in, and I'm going to squish you down. So we wind up with, this is about a 1/2 inch. As long as we're kind of within a 1/2 inch, 3/8 of an inch wide, that would be perfect. We can then take this, drop this through, slide this up, and bam, we have our starting point on here from what we're going to work with. Now, the good part is the dress itself is actually coming almost horizontal at this point in the front and on the side. Back, not as much, but so we can stick out a little bit more than that. So that's going to be perfect. And we're going to go and harden this thing before we go any further, which thankfully I've already done. So I've already done a separate piece. Figured I didn't have to wait for this thing to go. We could, if I can get it back through the hole again, that would be great. So we do have a piece in here. It's now hardened. This is ready to go. And actually, the hair I put on here was just kind of a temporary to see how that fits and kind of get a rough idea of how it looks. I'm not going to do the actual hair till after the dress. And actually, probably pretty much everything is done. Wings might even be done at that point, especially for the back hair going on here. The neck looks really funky right now, but again, we're going to be dealing with that with the neck. This didn't have to be perfect at this point. So what I'm going to do with this is, now this is hardened and in, is I'm going to take it, I'm going to go ahead, get you back out of there. We're going to go and drill a whole bunch of holes in this thing. 1/16 inch holes going throughout this. So let's just... aim down a little bit more. All right, well, we're going to hope that this all holds together in the end, because it's kind of flaking a little bit. And there we go. We had a little bit of flaking up top, but that could be worse. This is all kind of holding together. Now I see no reason not to add just a little more glue on this thing just to make sure these cracks and all stay together. I don't want any of this to move. So yeah, let's just let that do its thing for a second. I'm going to try to do as much of this in kind of one take as I can, because I've realized if I need to edit out everything I'm doing, that winds up being, let's say, at least 5 hours per session being done. And for my own sanity, I'd like to have maybe a session or two where I'm not editing everything, or if I am, it's just going to be a couple things here or there, just to kind of make things work out a little easier. And now what I'm drilling all these holes for in this is, rather than supporting on the base off the bottom here with wires coming up, I can now take this, and if I can find a hole, we can stick each one of these guys. We can go and take, now I've only formed a couple of these, not much, but I can kind of take little pieces of that, and now we can make a base for the dress as it comes down. Nope, that glue is still tacky. I don't want to stick that on there when the glue is still tacky, because I want this to be able to come off in the end. All right, there we go. If we rub off the excess, I'll get it on my fingers, and it can actually harden on the surface. Super glue is great for gluing fingers. Let me tell you that. It works really, really well at doing that. And so the master plan, when we go and stick this, whoop, back down in here. Let's go line you up. Is now with that there, this coming down, I can now angle. Let's say we're kind of coming towards here. Let's go and angle the dress out a little bit. You're going to kind of come towards here. Dress is going to angle out towards that a little bit. And I can now just kind of make a form that then I can drape the clay on top of. So I've already pre-rolled some of this out. This is not much because that's our 5-inch direction, not that way, unfortunately. And I haven't actually tried just sticking this on top to see how we kind of go, but that's going to wind up just, we're going to be able to form this, have it sit it on here, and it can just then sit there. And when I harden it, this will hopefully stay in the form it has, and then I'll be able to pull this down and out, hopefully, when this is said and done, and the undulations from this will hold it in the way it's supposed to be held in. So that's really kind of what our master plan is for this. We're going to see how well this works, and I'm just going to go ahead and start making a couple of these guys. These are maybe not 100% right, but they're pretty close at this point. So I can do 1 or 2 of these on camera, then I'll kind of do probably the rest. We're going to jump away for a little bit and then come back and take it from there. But might as well at least show part of this going on camera. Now again, each one will be kind of a little different from the one before it. As long as I can get kind of, they're going to start off probably close to each other. And it's actually symmetrical, so whatever I do on one side, as long as it works there, I'll be able to mimic on the other side. So might as well start out kind of with them together-ish. I see I made that one a little shorter, may not be a bad thing. I'm not sure what the 100% correct size is going to be at the moment, so I said we're just kind of making this up as we go. Alright, so take that off. It's going to give us another. So hang tight. I'm going to make a whole bunch of these things, and we're going to put it on here and see if we can fine-tune, if I can get you in one of these holes. We can then see if we can get this to kind of fine-tune ourselves. That said, As you've probably noticed from the start, I never actually cut off the excess on the arms and hands. I can actually use the extra of here to run down the arm, run through the hand, and it can be one of these that comes down the side too. So this is why we keep extra stuff on here when we do our clay work. So there's a reason for that. There is a method to the madness, even if it's going to make running the clay on top of this kind of hinky, which doesn't really matter on this one because this is going to be the under layer that we have. That said, one thing I didn't mention was to keep this from sliding down as we go. What I didn't actually put on was I wrapped around another piece of wire here, and I have more of the silver tape, which we use for ductwork nowadays. I'm just going to keep this shoved all the way up. I can pop you underneath on the bottom here and just kind of tape this in place, and that'll keep that from sliding down during hardenings and whatnot. Oop. Oh, getting these things in the right place and dealing with this tape is kind of impossible. Okay, there we go. Getting that back off again might be a problem, but it's going to be a problem for another time. But at least now that's going to keep this from sliding anywhere. All right, so that's where we are right now. That's kind of what I'm going to be working towards. So rather than watch like the next hour's worth of time or however long it's going to take to get these out and kind of formed out correctly, it's going to disappear. And when I come back, we'll be getting into the next stage of things. So hang tight. And I'm back. So this took about I don't know, half hour, 40 minutes or so, and made our whole kind of wire cage that goes around here. Worked out pretty okay. And hit one more slight snafu just because the material I'm working with is super sculpey. It's the one I'm familiar with. There are probably others that might have a little bit more structure whatnot to them, but typically if you're doing a kind of a skirt or something or a dress or something of the sort, you would take a little circle, pull that out of here, make a bigger circle on the outside, maybe put a slit in the back, and kind of wrap it around whatever your model is, and the certain skirt can just kind of hang there naturally as is, which is nice and good. However, because the form we're using here, she's holding up the sides, it's not a kind of nice little circle or oval going on here. I'm going to be doing this in multiple pieces. I'm not going to be able to do this kind of in one big piece, just drape it over, bim bam boom, done. So in order to kind of hold this up, this is just a fraction of what I need. You can see this only goes around almost the back. So in order to hold that up a little better, I'm actually going to take some of the silver tape I have here and kind of connect the dots a little bit on some of these pieces and kind of hold it together and give myself a little more structure to hold that onto, so that when I need to press the seams together and get it all to merge, I have something solid to go up against. So once again, I'm going to get kind of started on camera here, and I'll finish off camera. But all we're going to be doing on this is just kind of, plus this will help hold these guys together so nothing kind of wraps around or does weird stuff that I don't really want it to be doing. The nice thing is this can also have a little bit of that kind of wavy going on. So it gives, again, a little more realism to how this whole thing is going to be functioning and or held together. Let's see, this one winds up still being fairly straight. Just kind of crimp the end in over there. And we're just kind of going around the circle here. Let's get a little on the front side. Oh, silver tape is not the easiest stuff to work with. Not the easiest stuff at all. So right now you can see I have the hands are still separate because this is going apart in a number of pieces. It's just kind of easier getting things in. I may pop it down after and kind of make it a little nicer that way, but for right now, okay, now I'm going to purposely have this looser on the bottom over there because I do want to have this kind of going in a little bit. We do want to have that fold kind of coming in here. So we've got to make sure we do that. We don't want these things to all be completely tight, tight, tight around what we're working on. Kind of like you're gonna you can go in a little bit, kind of come down there. We can trim the excess off. And this is going to look a little funky until the whole thing kind of gets done. But that is the way it is going to be. Again, you're going to go in just a little bit. I'm just going to bring that down. We can bring you in. And we're going to make the general form out of these guys. Let's see, I'm going to hold off on that one. In here, it gets a little funkier because it does come in quite a ways before it comes back out. If we go and we change our side image on the back, you can see it's kind of puffs out in here that little bit and then comes in, so we have that little bit of a crimp on that portion. So the back kind of stays a little flush. We have a big crimp in here, and then there's going to be the big crimp in front. So once again, I'm gonna leave for a little bit. I'm going to kind of mask this whole thing out, and then we're going to start working on actually setting the clay into this. So hang tight, and I'll be back. All right, so we're not quite finished yet, but just want to show we are making progress. So you can see we're going around. We're getting the dress kind of going in here. It's kind of getting filled out, which is all good. All I'm doing is taking a little more, just kind of giving the rough undulations of what we need to do. More pieces on there. And while at the same time I'm doing this, if I take, very nice that our head is removable on this. On the underside, I am putting a layer on the inside here too, so I can actually manipulate it and not my fingers stick to like the tape that's on there. So, nice thing is we can reuse that same hole. Take some of this out and just kind of, the inside doesn't have to be quite as neat or perfect, but just kind of gives a little extra something to put in here. So again, when I'm trying to manipulate this for the next step, my hands aren't sticking to this. So just wanted to kind of show that part off before we get to the next step so you can actually see what's going on there. See, just like that, we got a little more done on that side. So. All right, hang tight. I'll be back in a bit when this is finished this time. And we're back. And as you can see, we now have at least a rough form we can work off of over here. It's looking pretty good. We can take this, let me get the head off. And we have underside, I have stuff down here, so I'm not going to be sticking my hands to anything in the process. Now getting you back in the hole is a little bit harder. And I'm just going to remove the head for now to allow for fewer things to go wrong as we go. And the first thing we need to do is take a strip of clay here, and we need to absolutely glue this onto the base on that, so when this comes in, it has something to actually attach to. Otherwise, it's just going to fall straight through because it's going to have quite a bit of weight to it in the end. So let's go ahead and put pretty decent amount of glue all over this, because we do really, really, really need this thing to stick particularly well. Now, good thing is, on the bottom of this, where we are, again, at this point, the dress is kind of flowing out almost horizontally down there. So I do have playroom to work with, and I'm still using that. Well, I guess I can still use that as a side image. All right, I'm just putting the glue away. And let's go and get this guy in here. Bottom end doesn't matter if it looks good or not. That's fine. Okay, I'm just shaking to make sure this isn't attached to the bottom. I didn't want the glue going all the way down into there. So that part's good. And while we're at this, let's go and stick just a little bit more. Let me trim this clay piece real quick. And just stick a little bit more clay on that, just to kind of bump out the bottom a little bit. I'm just kind of taking this rough edge off the bottom of this. Once again, we can take that, and we're just kind of tapering this out a little bit. Don't really need much of an overlap on there, so that's fine. But yeah, this should help give a little something to actually sit on when it goes. And I can even take this little scrap piece we had left and add it even more around here. More clay we have on this, sorry about that. More clay we get on this is gonna be all the better. Because again, this is gonna probably wind up being over half a pound worth of clay sitting on here. So I want to have at least a little bit of a taper for this to sit on in the end. When I do the final layer will build up into the dress, and it'll be held up by quite a bit more, but this first layer is not. So let's go stick you back here. And actually, let's turn you around. And I have gone ahead and I have made a couple of sheets here. Altogether, I have approximately 22 inches worth of sheets already made up, kind of ready to go. And I'm just kind of cutting around. And we can kind of put these things on, just kind of lay it on real quick, then we kind of push down the seams. And yeah, that's effectively how this is going to work from here on out. And then trim as necessary. Does 5 inches even go? That's right, I have this can go farther than it needs to go, but I'm not even 100% sure 5 inches makes the full distance. So yeah, this is going to be entertaining to see how this actually works. So let's just start this on camera, and once again, most of this is not going to be done, because even if I do a time-lapse thing, it's the time it's going to take to get this to work out correctly and nice and good is just going to be prohibitively long in the end. I'm just gonna form where I can. We have overlaps like that. I'm not worried about things being 100% perfect right now. I can trim and do as need be on that front as we go. I'm just trying to get the clay in here, or at least on here right now. Don't need the excess there. Don't need the excess here. And you can see really quickly, we do start getting this form that we want kind of coming out. Now the trick is once this is all done, I'm not going to want this to stick to my frame underneath. But I do need to kind of push these seams together as well as possible, because I need this to be treated as if it's one piece here. So I'm just kind of pushing in underneath, making sure it all kind of squishes together. I really don't need this seam to look neat, because again, there's going to be a layer on top of this. So I really don't need to worry about it looking nice. I just need to make sure it's together completely. That went in there. And we are kind of now again, this is going to be cut to make for the, can't see the lace as well on that one. Can you see the lace better on here? Yeah, you can kind of see the lace on the bottom. We will have kind of a zigzag cut going on, but I'm just going to at least trim off some of this excess that I'm not going to need in the end. We can trim it smaller from this. Because again, we're supposed to wind up about 3/4 of an inch from the wood is as big as this gets. So just kind of getting some of the excess off. And if I'm on here, we do want to actually squeeze into this base that we have made up on there. And that's kind of what I'm going to be doing for the next while again. So once again, I'm going to disappear for a little bit. And we're just going to lay this clay and keep kind of anywhere I have a seam, keep kind of squeezing it out, getting it good. And all the while, I'm going to try to make sure that this winds up being, the body winds up being separable from the form I have underneath. So once again, this is where we're going to hang off for the time being. Hang tight. I will be right back with hopefully a more finished looking piece. And we're back. And as you can see, we have all the clay kind of laid out on here. So we have probably about 6 or 7 ounces worth of clay on this. And by the time we get the next layer on, this may wind up being diminutively, it's one of my smallest projects, but it probably would be the most massive of my projects in terms of clay used on this. That said, to get to this point from the start of this session to this point here, it's probably been about 3 to 3.5 hours worth of stuff between doing the bottom layer and the clay here. And I think I'm going to call the session at this point. And rather than make an edit heavy kind of video going out, this one you're going to notice will have been significantly less edits going on in here, because that would probably take another 3 or 4 hours to do that, to make it like I did the ones last week in the headgear. And I'd rather put that time towards working on making this actually look good. So next time coming up, yeah, we're going to make this look good. We're going to make the lace here. We're going to cut this down, add the detailing in here. I do have some things I need to fix up, like a little bump here is not right, so we're going to fix some of those things up. We're going to harden this, and we're going to make this part look really, really good. So something to look forward to when we get to that point. But no, it's big changes have happened. Big changes have been made, and it's starting to look like what it wants to look like. So it's getting exciting now. We have a real model going now, and I'm happy. So until that next time comes, and until we get there, enjoy.